Hey everyone, welcome to Echoes from the Basement, an X-Files podcast. I'm your host Alice, and each week I revisit a classic episode of the X-Files while sharing my take on the strange and mysterious adventures of Agent Scully and Mulder. And who knows, I might even make a believer out of you. What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year! Yippee! Yippee! What is everybody's New Year's resolution? One of mine would be making this podcast bigger and maybe doing a little bit more of self-care moments for myself. I just don't feel like I make that sort of time for me. Anyway, how's everybody's week going? I've been okay. Let's start the episode. We're on episode 23, Roland. An eerie shadow hides in a room with pipes on the ceiling. The episode starts at the Mahan Prolusion Laboratory, Washington Institute of Technology in Colson, Washington. The dark figure turns out to be the janitor mopping the floor. He tries to use his keycard to enter a room, but he takes his time, puts the numbers in slowly on the keypad. A scientist in a white lab coat steals the card away from the janitor. Oh, here, let me do it, the scientist sighs. The janitor drops his mop. The numbers are typed in before your card, the scientist says. What's your number, Roland? 1315, Roland says. The scientist opens the door. A raging turbine echoes loudly in the other room. Computer screens and other technology lay all over the room while the two men talk about the machine. The scientists are arguing about whether the machine is ready to work and how far they should push it. It will work, one scientist exclaims. The other scientist at the computer slows the turbine down out of fear that the machine is going to destroy itself. The man from earlier walks in. He asks what's happening to the two men. One scientist says nothing because Cernow decided to stop the machine. I'm just trying to protect 4 years of work, Frank the scientist shoots back. The two continue to argue about the machine and the progress it's making. The men are worried about whether the project is going to be defunded because no progress has been made. The scientist in the suit leaves. It's just the two other scientists in the white lab coats. They argue about results and deadline. Then the other scientist that helped Roland earlier leaves. Good night, Dr. Keats, Roland says. The last scientist writes a bizarre equation on the whiteboard. Roland continues to mop. The doctor opens a secret door that leads to the turbine to work on the machine some more. The man watches in fear as the door closes behind him. What the hell? The scientist screams for Roland to open the door. Roland now sits at the high-tech computers typing commands. Open the door, Roland! You have to open the door! Roland starts to activate the turbine. Open the door, the scientist pleads. The wind picks up in the room. Roland goes to the board with the equations on it while the scientist fights for his life against the turbine. He holds onto the fence. Roland writes a new equation. The scientist can't hold on. He lets go of the fence and is flung into the turbine. Roland continues to mop afterwards. Scully and Mulder enter the crime scene at the Institute. The two agents are discussing the Icarus project, the next generation of engine design. Mulder explains the project a little more to Scully. They discuss Dr. Cernow, an aeronautical scientist who worked on the project. Mulder mentions that he's the sixth person to die working on this project in the last 6 months. Okay, but how is this an X-Files? Scully mentions. There's something unexplained here, Mulder mentions. I'm just not sure what. The agents arrive at the office where the scientist was murdered. Dr. Keats, Mulder and Scully explain themselves to the man. We learn that the doctor discovered Dr. Cernow this morning. The agents follow the professional into the turbine chamber where the doctor had died. How do you think he got trapped in here? Scully asks. Someone must have shut him in, the doctor replies. The door can only be opened and closed from the computer. Another person from your team died a few months ago, adds Scully. Yes, Arthur Grable, the man in the suit from before, interjects. He was killed in the car crash. Frank Nolet is his name. Are you certain that was an accident? What are you saying? Dr. Keats exclaims. Who wrote this? Mulder goes up to the whiteboard. Frank says that Ron was working on it after he left. Mulder points to a certain equation that doesn't match the handwriting on the board. What about Roland Fuller? Frank awkwardly says that Roland is the janitor. Well, according to the report, he and the other scientists were the only ones here last night. Roland didn't write that, Dr. Keats says. He's not exactly a rocket scientist. We're at the Heritage Halfway House. Roland is working on a picture for Tracy, another resident. A woman introduces the two agents to Roland. They then interview the man. Do you remember working last night? Mulder asks. Yes, Roland says. Do you remember seeing anything strange? Scully asks. No. Did any of the doctors do anything strange and unusual? Nope. Roland works on another picture. You must really like stars, Scully adds. 147. And then Roland points to Scully's star shirt. You also like numbers too, Mulder adds. Well, the agents are talking to Roland. He has a flashback, or maybe a flash forward to one of the doctors having their face frozen off. Roland gets up in a panic, and the glass jar of stars scatters upon the floor. Roland tries to pick them up, and he counts every star. Mulder looks at Roland's paper with stars and numbers on it. He takes it and stuffs it into his pocket. The caregiver kicks Scully and Mulder out. I wanted to mention that Roland is intellectually disabled. While at FBI HQ, Mulder brings the equation from the whiteboard to a handwriting analysis. She says these handwritings are not the same. Try this one, Mulder hands the woman a sheet of paper. It's a doodle from Roland. Scully and Mulder argue about whether or not Roland is the murderer. The FBI handwriting analysis says that Roland's handwriting doesn't match the one on the whiteboard either. We then see that Roland tosses and turns in his bed. He's having some sort of nightmare. We see him shoving one of the doctor's faces into something. The man wakes up from the bizarre dream. We're now at the Mahan Propulsion Laboratory, Building 214. Dr. Keats is listening to rock and roll while working alone. The door clicks open behind him. The scientist turns around, but nothing is there. He continues to work as he shrugs it off. We then see someone tiptoe into the room. He sneaks up behind the doctor. It's too late. The man hits Dr. Keats with a glass object. We see that it's Roland. He drives the scientist to the liquid nitrogen tank and stuffs his face in it. Dr. Keats screams for his life, but Roland puts his face into the tank. He then takes it out, and the doctor's face is frozen. Roland throws the body on the floor where the face shatters. Scully and Mulder enter the crime scene. Police officers take pictures of the evidence in the crime scene. Scully is explaining how liquid nitrogen works to Mulder. Mulder goes up to the scientist's computer and calls Scully over to look at some files. Dr. Keats logged off at 12:31. Someone else entered the file under Arthur after 12:31. This mystery person worked on something for 5 hours. Scully states that Dr. Keats died at 12:30. Mulder says, you're telling me someone murdered a man and did some work for 5 hours on an old Dr. Arthur Grable file? We needed the password to see the file, Scully says. Try 15626, Mulder replies. Scully types it, and then the file is up and running. How did you know? Scully looks at Mulder with a shocked look. The two agents go through the file. Mulder deducts that someone has been working in Arthur's work since he died. How do you know the password, Mulder? He takes out Roland's doodle from earlier. The numbers are written on it. Roland is having another nightmare. One child is shouting, getting into a car, while the other child stands with a woman. Roland tosses and turns as his dream continues. One child looks out of the back window of the car to look back at the other child. Roland is now awake and he's panicking. The caretaker comes into Roland's room and asks, why did you sleep in your clothes last night? Roland is wearing his janitor's uniform. You have a visitor, she adds. Scully and Mulder walk in from behind. Roland motions for the woman to come over. I'm not supposed to talk to these people, Roland tells the woman. Who said that? She asks. Mulder looks around Roland's room while the caretaker tries to calm him down. Mulder goes through Roland's closet and picks him out a nice shirt. The green one, Roland requests. Scully asks Miss Doty, the caretaker, if they can talk. Mulder starts asking Roland some very soft questions. Do you like your job? Yes. I hear you're the best, Mulder says. Do you remember how you started working there? A man talked to Miss Doty. What man? Dr. Grable. Was Dr. Grable a kind man towards you? Yes. When was the last time you guys talked? Mulder asked. Last week? Yesterday? Dr. Grable passed away, Roland says. Mulder inches towards him. I'm sorry. Roland adds, people die. They go away forever and they never come back. Scully is talking with Miss Doty. Has Roland ever mentioned anyone by the name of Arthur? That was Dr. Gribble's first name. Tracy is sweeping beside Scully and Miss Doty. Can I please get a copy of Roland's history and files, Miss Doty? Our patient's information is confidential, the caretaker says. I understand, but I have the means to obtain them, Scully says. Mulder and Scully head back to FBI HQ where they discuss Roland. Mulder thinks that Dr. Grable went to the halfway house looking for a specific person. Do you think the doctor hired Roland to use him? Scully asks. Which means you're suggesting that Dr. Grable is not dead, Mulder replies. Well, if he did want to kill those scientists, he would be one of the most unlikely suspects. Maybe he staged his death. That's how his work is continued on. Scully goes over to Dr. Grable's history of being an only child, where he graduated from, things like that. Roland and the doctor are both from Seattle. He spent most of his life at the halfway house, Mulder says, referring to Roland. His parents' identities have been sealed away, and he was put into a home at 3. We see that Roland was born July 15, 1952, the same day as I forgot his name. The same day as Arthur was born. At the Heritage home, Tracy and Roland are both coloring pictures. They talk about how people can do anything in their dreams. Tracy said she had a dream about Roland and her and how they got married. Roland then becomes upset. You can tell me about your dreams, Roland. Who's Arthur? Roland has a flash forward of him hurting Tracy. He yells and runs away in the bathroom. He screams at Tracy to go away. Mulder is looking at a picture of these men from the 70s. And he's talking to one of the scientists from earlier, the one in the suit, Dr. Nolet. They all talk about this picture and what it means and the story behind it. Mulder mentions Roland to the scientist, and he says that Arthur would still need to be alive to gain access to those files. Could he have faked his own death, Scully adds. No. Mulder mentions that the police report from Arthur's accident was incomplete. If you're suggesting that Arthur killed Surnow and Keats and is now after me, you guys are crazy, the doctor says. How could you be so sure, Scully asks. Dr. Nolet takes the 2 agents to Arthur. He is frozen. Well, really only his head, at the Avalon Foundation. Scully asks the men, why is this scientist's head frozen? Well, the man goes on to explain that they froze his head, and by the time science has advanced enough, they would unfreeze him. But he wouldn't have a body, Scully says. But the idea is that scientists would find a way to unfreeze him and then also clone his body and make him a new one. The man goes on to explain the whole process of it all. Mulder notices that one of the containers fluctuate in temperature. Does this happen often? He asks the man. No, we have been having problems with Arthur's capsule. Mulder asks, could the doctor's brain make the fluctuations happen? No, the man says. Can we look at Arthur's records, Scully asks. She follows the man. He hands her a file. The man and Scully chat about some things, and then something strange happens. Arthur's capsule temperature fluctuates again. Scully calls for Mulder. She sees that there is a name located in Arthur's file. Roland Fuller. The agents discover that these 2 are twins. The agents go back to FBI HQ for more research. They use the picture of Arthur from the file and edit it, taking out his beard, changing his hair. That's Roland, Scully gasped. The 2 agents run back to the Heritage House, where they interview Roland again. Tell me about your dreams, Mulder asks. Roland doesn't respond. Mulder tells the other man about a strange dream he had to open the conversation a little bit more. To open the conversation, Roland, with tears in his eyes, says, I'm not allowed to tell you my dreams. Well, why not? Mulder asks. Roland says, it's bad. Mulder tries to comfort him. You're not bad, Roland. It's just your dreams. Roland says that he had a dream about hitting Tracy. Your dreams make you do that, Mulder says. Roland says nothing. The agent goes over to the toy shelf and asks Roland how to use the toy. He hands the remote control to Roland. He then uses the controls to move the spaceship. Mulder uses the toy to explain the situation to Roland, that he's being controlled by someone. Who? Roland asks. Mulder pulls out a picture of Arthur. Have you ever seen this man? He asks. Roland has a flashback to his childhood with his twin brother and the murder of one of the doctors. He starts to scream. Roland runs away and Tracy goes after him. The agents run after him too. We need to keep Roland under observation, Mulder says. Roland sees another flash of a broken window and he escapes from the bathroom. Mulder runs after him, calling, Roland, Roland. We're back at the laboratory. Dr. Nolet is gone, Mulder tells Scully. We need to find him. Mulder, no one is going to do anything for you after you explain your theory, Scully adds. Mulder and Scully discuss psychic connections. Mulder believes, but Scully doesn't. He says that psychic abilities are the strongest between twins, and that Arthur is not dead, just in a state of consciousness, and that state allows him to develop psychic abilities. And he is using this ability on his brother to kill those scientists. Why? Scully asks, why now? Only Dr. Nolet can answer that, Scully, Mulder says. Camera zooms in on the two agents. The doctor has been watching them this whole time. Dr. Nolet goes to Arthur's capsule. He types in some numbers, and the capsule's temperature starts going down. We see Roland working on something in a dark room. He has a vision. Scully and Mulder head back to the office to go over Roland and Arthur's records. They are identical twins. The two agents discuss the set of twins, then the phone rings. It's the man from the Avalon Foundation. He says that we have a situation here. Last night there was a break-in. They messed with Arthur's unit. His thermostat has been ruined. The temperature keeps rising. We cannot cool the unit down. Scully recaps the info to Mulder. Roland is working in the lab, and we see that he has a cut on his hand. He has flashes of Arthur's tank, but he continues to work on his work. What is it? He says in pain. Dr. Nolet creeps up from behind. This is not yours, Roland says. You're controlling that body, aren't you, Arthur, the doctor says. You're the one that took my work, Roland says. The doctor snickers and says, so what, basically? You died before you can finish it. You did all the work to finish this project, and I get all the glory, Dr. Nolet says. Roland screams no. The doctor reveals his weapon to Roland. Yes, Arthur, you attacked me. I was only moments away from finishing it. That's why I carried a gun after the murder of the other scientists. Roland has flashes again. He takes the keyboard and smashes it over the doctor's head. Scully and Mulder hastily run to the lab. They enter it. Dr. Nolet was gently put into the turbine chamber by Roland. The man turns on the turbine as the doctor is waking up. Dr. Nolet screams, "Open the door, Arthur! Open the door!" Roland ignores and keeps on typing. The agents run into the other room and see Roland and the doctor. Mulder tries to stop it. He pleads with Arthur, Tell me how to stop it. Scully intervenes. Roland, we need your help. Stop the machine. Try to remember. The scientists continue to hold on to the fence. Roland slowly walks towards the computer and types. I can't remember, he says. He hits some buttons, and then the turbine stops. Arthur dies in his capsule. Scully is explaining everything to Mrs. Stody. She asks the agents, well, how could this happen? Mulder explains that Roland was being controlled. He then pulls some files out of his bag. This is Roland's brother's unfinished work. Then explains how Roland ended up finishing it. We see that Roland is packing his clothes in his room. Tracy enters. Where are you going? She asks. She pleads with him not to leave, but he asks to. Tracy, he called for her. Roland goes into his dresser and gives Tracy his jar of stars. I love you, Tracy says. Me too, Roland replies as he leaves. The two have pain written across their faces. Roland looks into the mirror and then leaves. And that's the end. I think this was a pretty good episode. You would never guess that someone was controlling Roland the whole time, especially his own twin brother. How did you guys like the episode, and do you believe in psychic connections? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget, I Echoes from the Basement on Instagram, Tumblr, and YouTube. And thanks for listening, all you truth seekers, abductees, and X-Files enthusiasts. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the show. And remember, the truth is out there. You just have to find it.